Hi, everyone. So we're going to start in the next 2 minutes.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Doing Business in Africa 101 for Cyber Companies webinar. As you see on the upper left side, this event is also live on YouTube, so feel free. You can reach out either on YouTube or, of course, see the recording afterwards because it's posted live, of course. I would first like to begin with a special thank you to the Trade and Economic Missions in South Africa, Ghana, and Kenya for organizing this event, and of course to Tony Walt, Managing Executive Security for Dimension Data in South Africa for speaking at this event, and of course for all of you, to all of you, of course, for coming. My name is Alon Shahak. I run the HLS, Cyber, and Aerospace sectors here at Israel Expert Institute in Israel. We are more than happy to have this webinar in order for you to understand and see how you can work in it and find out if more opportunities for you to manage to succeed and of course succeed in Africa itself. So without further ado, I will just take one small thing and say that we do have a marketplace in israelcyberalliance.com, the Israel Cyber Alliance website, which will be more than happy if you can sign in, register, and find more opportunities passively from there. So without further ado, Tony, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Alon, and it's really very exciting, and to be given this opportunity, I'd like to thank everybody for their time. My name is Tony Walt. I am the Major Executive for Dimension Data Security across Middle East and Africa. And I was asked, and I've got a very long-standing relationship with the people on this call. I met and the guys, and I really firstly want to say that the work that they do is absolutely fantastic. We've had many successes that we can share where we have engaged with some Israeli startups and some of them even a little bit more mature, and being able to bring the technology into our managed security services stack across some of the geographies in which we operate. So this works. We do and have got demonstrable success in this space. So they're doing a fantastic job, really. But I guess today, I was asked just to give a little bit of a high-level overview of doing business in South Africa 101, and it's actually more difficult than you would imagine. So, I guess what I'm going to do is give you a very, very high-level view of our thinking and our approach and what has worked. Ideally, thereafter, if there's anything that you would like to engage with me directly on, please, I'd be really happy to do so. Even if it's not going to result in benefit for the business that I represent, but if it's just something I can help out on the side, I'd really love to do so. And at some point, I can't wait to come back to Israel. So just a little bit about Dimension Data, and this is not a sales pitch at all, but just so that you understand, I guess, where we operate. The Dimension Data Middle East and Africa business has been around for about 38 to 40 years. We have representation in the UAE, Saudi, Qatar. We've actually got an office in Israel as well, Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Tanzania, Namibia, Botswana. So we really are pretty well covered across the African continent. And the services that we provide differ depending on the country that we operate in. But by and large, it's all about ICT. So we're talking about connectivity services. We're talking about MPLS, VPN, SD-WAN, probably one of the largest data center footprints on the African continent as well, which is what we represent. Obviously, security and applications, Microsoft, Oracle. So it's really a broad range of ICT services, some to a greater extent in some of these regions and some to a lesser extent. We also represent part of NTT Security. So for those of you that are not familiar with NTT is one of the largest ICT companies in the world. And NTT Security is the second largest managed security service provider. They're split into 4 regions, Asia Pacific, the Americas, Europe, and then Middle East and Africa. In Middle East and Africa, we've retained the brand Dimension Data just because of how well known it is over here, but around the rest of the world, it's known as NTT Security. But we are absolutely part and parcel of NTT. So, that's also quite cool for us because NTT has visibility of over 45% of all traffic across the globe, all internet traffic. So you can imagine the accessibility that we have in terms of threat intelligence feeds, et cetera, and we have unfettered access to all of that. Now, lastly, we also make sure that we are either number 1 or number 2, preferably obviously number 1 in every single region in which we operate. We've got to do that at scale. And if we don't and we're not successful in being number 1 or 2, both from a partner perspective as well as the in-country market share that we own, then we will pull out. So, this is not an easy place to do business. Some countries are easier than others, but let me give you a couple of quick facts, which I think you might find interesting. Africa is the second largest continent in the world, and it's also the second most populous. We've also got the world's oldest populated continent, and if you come through to South Africa, by way of example, we can take you to the cradle of humankind, which is really where we get some of the oldest human fossils in the world. It's probably about an hour drive from where I live in just north of Johannesburg. It's also the world's hottest continent. But I think importantly, from a business perspective, it's got the largest reserves of precious metals, and that has such a consequential impact on the overall commercial sector, the type of economies that are required to drive, whether it be gold, cobalt, platinum reserves, the mining behind it, and then you start thinking about opportunities in the industrial sense from a security perspective, like OT security. It's the largest reserve of precious metals, whether it's the West Coast, the East Coast, and that in and of itself has driven an incredible commercial opportunity with all of the supporting functions that are required when it comes to minerals. Just some other quick facts as well. The Sahara is the largest desert in the world, and it's actually bigger than the whole of USA. We've got over 2,000 languages that are spoken across the continent. Very, very unique, as you can well imagine. The Nile River, we boast it as the longest river in the world. And we also have the oldest existing continually operating educational institution in the world in Morocco. And finally, and probably for me, the most exciting is that we've got the world's largest, tallest, and fastest animals, the elephant, the cheetah, and the giraffe. So it really is an incredible, incredible place. But I think some observations, you know, the first thing I've said over here is be careful of what I refer to as the brush theory. People often try and paint Africa with one single brush. Now it's made up of over 50 different countries, and the difference between the countries is so stark that if you take a view that Africa is one monolithic place and the rules apply equally in every geography, you won't be successful. You need to get into the detail and into the cultural differences of each and every single one of the countries in which you want to operate. Saying I'm in Africa actually doesn't mean anything, right? It's a continent. You need to understand the nuances between Ghana and Nigeria and Kenya and Mozambique and Tanzania. You need to understand the people, need to understand the different maturities when it comes to the underlying infrastructure, accessibility to the internet, where the hyperscalers are looking to place their next data centers. It is so different, whether it's North Africa, Southern Africa, South Africa, East, West. So just be cautious. I guess that's the first thing. You know, do not paint Africa, you know, with the same brush. East Africa is a very, very interesting space, and in a very interesting space at the moment. They've had incredible investment coming through from China and India, in particular around infrastructure. And what do I mean by infrastructure? I'm talking about fiber infrastructure. They've got some of the continent's most advanced penetration from a fiber perspective, with multiple cables coming out on the east coast, terminating through to Sesimbra in Portugal, and then on Simiwi 4 coming down to South Africa, all the way through to India. So it really is well connected, and it's a burgeoning market because it's also incredibly rich from a mineral perspective. So you've got this this market, which I think from a cloud perspective is probably going to be the next largest opportunity that we see in terms of the geographies in which we currently operate. And it's headquartered, if you may, around Kenya. So if you're looking to expand from a cloud perspective, and what do I mean by cloud? Security within the cloud, by way of example, Kenya is the place where you want to be. And then you go to the neighboring East African Kenya sites, your Tanzania, Uganda, etc., Zambia. So East Africa is very, very interesting, and we are seeing a tremendous uptake in OT in particular, funnily enough. We, as Dimension Data, are looking to own that market from an OT perspective, because you look at it from a competitive perspective, and there aren't many competitors there at all. So it's a perfect time to get in. The underlying infrastructure is sound. The geopolitical environment is stable. The ability to repatriate funds is quite easy. And you're not hit with these sudden withholding tax issues where regulations change on a daily basis. So it really is a good place, I guess. If not South Africa, maybe looking at East Africa to kind of start. Middle East and North Africa, I can tell you from experience, our pipeline, forecasted pipeline into our FY21 financial year, which started on the 1st of April, has in excess of 45% of the entire pipeline is purely security. So I think that says a lot as well, because Dimension Data, the security business in Dimension Data is actually one of the smallest security businesses, one of the smallest businesses within Dimension Data. The data center business is huge. Our applications business is huge. Our infrastructure business is huge. From a security perspective, I started this business up about 1.5 years ago, So relatively speaking, it's small, but when you consider that the entire countries in Middle East and North Africa have in excess of 45% of their pipeline in security, I see that as huge opportunity and a great place to make sure that you're there. West Africa, it's a very, very interesting space. I do know that I saw some of our Ghanaian colleagues over there as well. Dimension Data and Internet Solutions has representation in Nigeria and in Ghana. And from a security perspective, that's going to be the next space that I move my business into, because we've got a really good underlying infrastructure capability already. We've got we're well known in the market over there. And yeah, I think the only caution, not for Ghana, but certainly on the Nigerian side, is it does get very complicated with some of the regulatory changes around things like withholding taxes, local shareholding requirements if you want to trade, certain licenses, etc. Again, many of which we can help out. I mean, we've learned our lessons over at least 15 years of being in that space. So very happy to help out. And then, I guess finally, from a South African perspective, probably the best springboard to get into any one of the other countries in Africa would be from a South African perspective. So, it's a very, very mature market, incredibly stable. If you look at the Rand dollar exchange, it's in the region of about 14.95, and it's been stable like that for much of the last 12 months, which says a lot given what we've all gone through over the past 12 months. Geopolitically, very, very stable. And South Africa, very well respected by the bulk of the other African countries as well. We head up the AU, the African Union, and obviously represent that on the global stage. So it's probably a good place to kind of start off, where you could open up a little office, a representative office, or an organization such as ourselves, would be a good place to see and establish where that technology could potentially fit in a services stack. The way I've built our business is out of South Africa. We've deployed our SOAR capability in AWS, because there's an instance in Cape Town of AWS. And then we've replicated that SOAR capability across East Africa, West Africa, and into the Middle East as well, in our managed security services stack. So we have lots of organizations come to us and say, this particular technology, I don't know, as an example, DDoS attack simulation or something like that, can that fit into the managed security services stack? And I guess the nice thing is that when it does fit into the stack, it immediately becomes ready for sale and ready for delivery across all of the regions in which we operate. We don't have to go and deploy separately in every single other region. It's because of the way I've built the business, it's automatically immediately available for ready for sale and ready for delivery. That's really, really high level. I know that I probably didn't do it's 100% of justice, but I do wanted to just give everybody, I guess, more so an open invitation to reach out to myself and answer very specific questions that you might have for certain technologies in certain countries. And I think what's most important is that if you remember to ensure that you don't paint the entire continent with the same brush, that in and of itself is the reason why I've kept it very high level, because the moment you want to talk about a very specific technology in a particular country, I can give you some insight into where they are on the maturity curve from a connectivity perspective, how robust the underlying infrastructure is, but you cannot refer to Africa as having a robust or a non-robust underlying infrastructure. We're going to go into each country specifically. I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to stop screen sharing, and I'm going to hand over, I guess, back to Alon.
All right, thank you, Tony. There is a question from the audience here. Matthew is asking, is it best to contract with local partners, or will customers buy direct?
So it depends what it is that you're selling, and it depends on the country. Again, yeah, that's just another example of painting Africa with the same brush. So I'll give you an example. If what you're selling fits into a managed security services stack, and it's a supplementary control to one of the standard controls that you have from a security perspective, and it's got full API integration, then what we would do as an example, I can only speak from my perspective, is we would incorporate that as part of our managed security services stack, and it would be sold as a managed service by us on your behalf into the market. What we don't necessarily like doing is acting purely as a sales or resale office. So in other words, we have unfettered access to many of the largest organizations if I take the Dimension Data South African business as an example, over 85% of the corporates in South Africa procure from Dimension Data. But what I don't want to do is simply resell somebody else's technology. So you've got to find a way to ensure that your technology complements our services stack, and then that is probably where the best kind of success will come from, as opposed to expecting an organization simply to resell on your behalf.
Thank you for this answer. Another question: how open are the banks to the cloud when it comes to anti-fraud services?
The banks, funnily enough, well, again, it depends where, right? So in Southern Africa, as an example, two of there are 5 major banks in South Africa. 2 of them have publicly announced a comprehensive move to hyperscale. It will probably result in a hybrid type of model, but they are comprehensively and deliberately moving into the hyperscalers. So that presents absolutely massive opportunity. Approximately 80% of our client base in East Africa is the financial services. From a cloud maturity perspective, it's very immature at this stage. As I say, there are no hyperscalers over there, but they're at the beginning of that. And I think that it's a great space to get into at this early stage.
There's a small notification here. There's South Africa, Kenya, Ghana, and Nigeria. The last question is about those countries.
Okay, so I've answered South Africa, Kenya, absolutely. Nigeria, interestingly, goes through these phases where they consolidate the financial services industry by increasing the level of liquidity that the banks are required to have. And in so doing, it results in a whole lot of other banks either losing their license or being subsumed by the larger banks. So it's a little bit, I don't want to use the term unstable because that's not fair, but it moves a lot. I mean, over here in South Africa, in East Africa, you've got the major banks, and that's pretty much how it is for years and years on end. In Nigeria, that changes all the time. So yeah.
Right. 2 last questions, then we'll move on. Of course, for the audience, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out and we'll make connections afterwards. The first one is, how is COVID-19 affecting the budget and purchasing in Africa countries?
Okay, again, depends which country, right? So South Africa went through a reasonably tough COVID-19 period, but bear in mind that South Africa prior to COVID was sitting at about 0.3% GDP growth in any event. So it wasn't, it really had, to a large extent, I guess you could argue the economy had stalled. This was even pre-COVID, so obviously COVID has had a massive impact. We have seen over the last quarter opening up and an increase in spend over here in South Africa, which is good. As it relates to East Africa, they are facing, particularly in Kenya, the 3rd wave is going to hit them hard. But I'll be in Kenya, I think it's on roughly the middle of May, 17th of May. And by then, our understanding is that there's going to be some, we're kind of back to normal, if you may. And then in Middle East, our operations are probably outperforming the rest of the operations on the African continent, in particular our Saudi operation, Qatar, Oman, and UAE. And I think that to a large extent, they're beyond the COVID impact.
And last question for now. Again, sorry for all the others that are asking, but afterwards we will answer. Is the GDPR the relevant privacy compliance, or is there a separate one in each country?
Different ones in each country. So GDPR, absolutely. Remember that if a company in South Africa, by way of example, is owned by a company in the UK, then GDPR would still apply to the South African entity of that company. And Dimension Data is a great example because NTT is headquartered out of the UK, so we have to subscribe to GDPR as well as the local POPI. So in South Africa, you asked about other regulatory data privacy. We've got POPI, the POPI Act that is coming into effect now in South Africa. So it does change per country. That's the short answer. Sorry, give me one sec. Okay.
Unfortunately, we need to continue, but thank you very much, Tony. I'm the head of the Israeli Trade Mission in South Africa, and we working continuously with Tony for several years. And I can tell that it's a rare combination of someone that, first of all, understand the value of Israel and the trade missions, and also his willingness to work with Israeli companies and with us is amazing. So thank you very much. We pulled him from back-to-back meetings, and the companies that ask to meet with Tony, we will make a connection, and others that want to can approach us, and we will continue for the next session. So thank you, Tony, and
thank you.
To see you face to face soon.
Good. I look forward to it. Thank you, everyone.
Right. Before we continue, the companies that already asked questions and didn't get answers, we're writing it down, and we'll get the answers back at you afterwards in the email. So without further ado, I would like to take the time and move the spotlight to Karishma Seudat from the Israel and Trade Economic Mission to South Africa to explain about the country. Karishma, the floor is yours.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, you can begin.
And okay, is my video on?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Karishma Seudat, leading the ICT sector at the Israel Trade Mission for South Africa. Today, I'm going to speak to you guys about doing business in South Africa with the sector cybersecurity. Firstly, we're going to look at the sector overview for South Africa and give you some background about South Africa with the sector. South Africa is the third highest number for cybercrime victims in South Africa. As South Africa moves to the digital era, the cybercrimes increases in all sectors. COVID-19 have impacted the SA market largely with cyber attacks. 100 days alone of lockdown in South Africa, there was a huge increase in spam attacks up to 46%, and fake identity attacks, which increased up to 75%, and malware spiked by 385%. South Africa is attacked so much because consumers and businesses don't have the latest technologies with the best security on them. There is a lack of general awareness around security in less developed regions. The reality is that the security solutions do exist, but there is simply a lack in uptake. SA is also considered as a financial hub that attracts a lot of hackers in order to try and get easy money due to the lack of security cyber infrastructure. Threat actors may perceive South African organizations as potentially having lower defense barriers than those more developed economies. This next slide shows some examples of companies in South Africa that have been had a cyber threat on them. So the first one we look at is a Life Care Health Hospital, which is a large hospital in South Africa that was targeted by raising a wave of ransomware. So what happened here was the emission system and business processing system and email services was affected. It resulted in delays as hospitals had to move to manual processing systems. Another company that was targeted was also Telkom. Telkom is a large telecommunication company in South Africa. It experienced a malicious software attack, which happened last year, May. The malware infection was on their internal system, and it had to immediately shut down their call centers to take precaution. Johannesburg City Power was also attacked by hackers called Shadow Kill hackers, demanding a ransom payment in Bitcoin. Shortly thereafter, hackers launched DDoS attacks on the local banks, flooding them with fake traffic. The criminals also demanded a ransom. If we look at Rain and NetBank, they was attacked by data breach security. So what happened with Rain? It was an email statement sent to customers. The company said that it's luckily Rain's cybersecurity team discovered unauthorized access to the group's invoice storage system. So it was limited to names and postal addresses of customers being exposed. NetBank has also been attacked by data breach, which resulted in 1.7 million clients potentially being affected by data breach. So what happened here was there was a data security issue which occurred from a third-party service provider. The third party was Computer Facilities. So customers' names, ID, telephone numbers, and physical email address have been exposed. So if you look at data breaches, it will be on the increase as people continue to work remotely in South Africa. Employee awareness of cyber risk will be on the spotlight for this year. More training for all organizations to enhance cybersecurity awareness training efforts will be required. The adoption of the cloud system will be used to protect the public sectors as more systems move to the cloud. New strategies will be needed to ensure high levels of security. There is a growing demand from governments to on-premise sites in order to keep valuable data in the country. The next sector we look at is the business culture, how to work in the SA market. So some of the points here is that it's nice to have a good knowledge of the local situation in South Africa, any subject that can help your business, such as knowing about the sports such as rugby, cricket, or soccer. It is difficult for SA to say no. You need to notice the difference between no to just a long way to reply. You need to try and take a time to try and establish a good relationship with your SA partners. It's all about the relationship. Cold calls are less likely to succeed in SA. You need to find a referral to get to the contact. Sales cycles are longer but necessary. You need to be aggressive when doing business in South Africa. Being aggressive in South Africa when doing business is not a good idea. Instead, you should be patient and try to show understanding. In South Africa, face-to-face meetings are preferred to telephone or online conference calls. But now, due to COVID, mainly South Africans are able to do virtual meetings. Having patience with South Africans is a must. Scheduling a meeting in SA may take some time. The next slide, we look at next plan activities. So these are some of the planned activities that the Israel Trade Mission of South Africa are looking to complete this year. So we're looking at participating at a cyber webinar summit. We're looking at physical delegation at the end of the year. Well, this will all depend on COVID and the protocols. Cyber for retail, cyber for hospitals, and cyber training webinar. So if any Israeli companies are wanting to partner or interested in these events with us, you can let me know and I'll be happy to connect with you guys. The last slide, we look at some of the do's and don'ts that you for South African market. So some of the do's that you want to do and get right to do business in South Africa is you want to target integrators, resellers, and distributors. You want to get first project in the country. It's rather to take the first project, even with the thinner margins, since SA tend to be more cooperative if you're already working in the country. More case studies and proven solutions and less buzzwords. You need to be price sensitive to the SA currency compared to the Israeli dollar, especially if it's the first client. Usually better to get the first client for lower price to get a foothold in SA market. Demo presentations are good marketing platforms. You need to provide detailed explanations of the solutions, understand the company before implementing solutions, ensure you provide features and advantages and benefits of the solutions. Some of the things you don't want to do in the SA market is you don't want to force the customer to purchase in the first few meetings. You don't want to be impatient and expect a response as soon as possible. You don't want to be rude. No collaborations with being rudeness. You don't want to talk negative comments about competitors. You don't want to be late to meetings. You don't want to have a sales pitch if you can't speak English fluently. So I have experienced this personally that many of the Israeli companies, when I speak to them, I find it a bit difficult to understand them because they don't speak English fluently. So you want to have your business person or the person that's speaking to the SA company who knows English quite well. I think this will help and not make you lose, not make the SA company lose interest immediately. You don't want to sell unnecessary solution which does not fit the SA companies. So that was me. Thank you so much. If you guys have any questions, you can put them through. Feel free to contact me. I'm happy to assist you. Thank you.
Thank you, Karishma. There is already a question. Can we receive assistance in locating local partners, cybersecurity distributors, and resellers?
So the person wants to know whether they can receive assistance or how can they receive assistance? Yes,
of course. How they can receive?
So we at the Israel Trade Mission. So as I said, I'm in charge of the ICT sector. So I'm sure you have on your registration form, you have said that, you know, you want to connect with me. So the process is basically, I would have to know what you want, who you want to connect with in the SA market. And I would connect you, depending on what you're providing for the SA market, I would connect you with the relevant companies. So be it whether you want to connect to the reseller, integrators, or you want to partner, I would connect you with the relevant companies.
Great. At the moment, I think this is about it for the Q&A. Oh, wait, we have a new one. Do you see opportunity for conducting industrial cybersecurity workshop and training?
So, well, actually, you did see the slide. We are looking at having, because a lot of Israeli companies are approaching us in terms of having a implementing training for the SA companies. So we are looking at having a session, like a webinar, where we will partner with the Israeli companies to expose the service to the SA market, because a lot of South African markets are looking at training solutions. So yes.
Right, that's about it. Of course, if you have any questions,
I would just add, before we moving this, so thank you, Karishma. I would just add about, first of all, about all these presentations, we trying to give you in a nutshell about the cyber. Of course, that in each case, in each company, it will be different. And once you have more, you know, interest to go to a specific market, we can go to more details with you. So it was really just to give you an overview. And it's relevant also to the business culture and the do and don'ts. It's just to give you a frame about how to do business. Just about the questions about the best way to connect resellers and brokers and dealers in Africa. I think, you know, it's similar to a lot of other countries in the world that you need, you know, it's all about relationships, and it takes time to build them. And especially now with the COVID, although Israelis can go out in and out from South Africa when they're vaccinated freely, I think it's about to build these relationships, to show them the product, to show them, you know, reference from other customers, even if it's not in South Africa and in Africa, to make a demo that really bring value for the clients, not just to show them like a sales pitch. The Israelis companies, and I'm sure you know that you have like, there's a kind of tendency to do like a sales pitch to talk about how we're great and how we're the best in the world. It's great, but it's not an investor deck to really show in a demo how it solves problems for the customers. And after you get all these milestones, there is a much more chances, and of course the meeting at the end, and it's much more chances to get the best resellers and dealers and brokers for that. I think that's it.
That sums it up pretty great.
Yeah.
Thank you for it. And of course, thank you, Karishma. And we'll be moving forward to Edwin Aqua from the Trade and Economic Mission to Ghana. Edwin?
Hello, good
Yes.
morning.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning
Just
to
present your
everyone.
presentation and you can start.
Yes, my name is Edwin Aqua, Trade Officer, Business Development Manager actually outgoing because I'm moving cyber onto a colleague of mine who I'll introduce at the end. I'm a trade officer at the Israeli Trade Mission in Accra. We sit in Accra in the embassy, and there are a few priority sectors that we look at, including cyber.
Edwin, please just move to presentation mode. Set full screen.
Sorry.
And no, actually, presentation mode is below the screen.
Yeah. Can you see my screen?
We can see it. You know what? If it is easier for you like this, go like this. I'm pretty sure everybody can see. Right, so
Okay.
you can begin.
Okay, yes, so to begin, a short industry overview of the cybersecurity sector in Ghana. It's considered as a key component of Ghana's digital transformation agenda of the government, trying to move the entire economy into a digital age where several of its components are up to date. And for this reason, in 2020, they passed a Cybersecurity Act following some consultations with the industry and some work done by the then National Cybersecurity Center. So now they become a National Cybersecurity Authority. With this new legislation, it means that companies looking to do services and offer products in the sector in Ghana would require some certification and license, but the authority is still in the implementation phase. They are now beginning to implement most of their prescriptions, so we would have to wait on that. And if there are any important information, we share with Israeli companies. More importantly, Ghana, through the Ministry of Communication and the INCD, signed an MOU to explore formal cooperation and opportunities on cybersecurity activities. This has helped the Trade Mission have a formal platform through which it engages the government agencies within the cybersecurity sector, namely BOG and then the National Cybersecurity Authority. Some key players in the sector. On the governmental side, we have the Ministry of Communications, we have the National Cybersecurity Authority, we have BOG, like I mentioned. There's also National Information Technology Agency, an agency within the Ministry of Communication that implements information technology within the government space, and the National Communication Authority that oversees the communication sector and the telecom sector mostly. Some general facts and figures in Ghana on cybersecurity. The banking and financial sector is the biggest consumer so far. Due to some regulation that was put in place by BOG, the Bank of Ghana, every financial institution, especially banks, are required to meet some minimum requirements on cybersecurity. This, since 2018, saw a move by most financial institutions and banks into acquiring and procuring cybersecurity technologies and services. And this has worked quite well for some cybersecurity companies, Israeli cybersecurity companies, whom we've been in touch with and worked with. Some common attacks that we have come to learn exist within the market is spear phishing, debit card or credit card fraud, and scams, related scams. Ransomware over the past 3 years, a few prominent ones last year when COVID started, and business scams. A few Israeli companies have
Edwin,
Yes.
Sorry to disturb, but you're not moving the slides, so they can't see what you see. Please move forward with the slides.
No, I'm on the same slide. I'm here.
All right. You
I
just
haven't
said.
gone anywhere. Yeah, so big business comes is quite prevalent. A few emanating from Nigeria, with a few people in Ghana supporting that, and we know of several European companies and Israeli companies that are attacked this way. Challenges and opportunities. Cybersecurity awareness is big, especially in the corporates and then the business world. Even though it is something that is required for financial institutions, you realize that the general understanding and knowledge and awareness within its employees and people working in that space is quite low. Move on to the general population, and it's very, very inadequate. This has led us to look at opportunities of bringing Israeli companies to do some capacity building and training activities over the past 2 years, and it has been well received, very impactful, and it helps to put out what Israeli companies could do within that field. The skills, cybersecurity skills that exist within the IT departments of financial institutions and companies are also relatively average. This is probably because there's not much happening within the sector that requires people to be actively using those skills. So most people get very dormant, very obsolete, and therefore need to be updating their skills. This is also a very important opportunity we see there for cybersecurity training companies to enter into the market and raise the general level of knowledge and awareness in cybersecurity. Investment into cybersecurity solutions are somewhat challenging. Even though there's a regulation, most companies find it difficult because they do not see a clear profit generating path to that. But against what they stand to lose, they begin to understand what is required. But it means that if an Israeli company will come into the market, they need to clearly show the Ghanaian company or bank that this is what we solve and this is what we save you in money terms, and this is why you should take our solution. And that is very important to any Israeli company coming into the system.
Edwin, let's move forward with the slides. We have 2 last minutes for you.
Okay. Cybersecurity education, I already mentioned. Reporting on cybersecurity crimes has always been an issue. The government is trying to improve that, and the new act that they enacted is supposed to help that. Like Tony said, and like Karishma said, face-to-face is important. Making your agenda clear is quite is needed to be able to get anywhere with a Ghanaian company. Trust and commitment is important to them. They need to know that you are going the long haul with them. Companies are generally price sensitive, so they require you to approach selling anything to them in a modular fashion. Else, if you come presenting big solutions, they are most likely to drop off even at the beginning. Because the sector is relatively young, it requires a little bit more time. So you need to be patient with people when you are not getting them as quickly to accept your system as possible. Israel is a very attractive brand in Ghana, and this helps when we are approaching companies because they initially are very open to you, and it's an opportunity for you to make sure that you are selling them the right thing so that you can move the transaction forward. Things to do, very important for us, is you do demonstrations. It's important that you show the client what you are trying to sell him. If you just present it on a presentation deck, he doesn't really appreciate the power or the good things that you are offering. So it's important to always do demonstrations. And engaging local partners are key. This would help push your product even when you are not on ground in Ghana or you are focusing somewhere else. You have someone on ground to solve this for you. Meetings are important. You might meet 4 or 5 times, possibly, but this is all part of the process. It ends well. So you should always stay in touch and always contact us when you are trying to enter into the market, because we'll be able to do the hand-holding session to help you quite well.
Edwin, I'm sorry, but since we have 10 last minutes for the webinar, I do want to move forward to Tanya. So any last words?
All right. So the Mame Yao Suamwa is the new cybersecurity trade officer. She is taking over from me, and if there are any issues, you would be in touch with her, and she will do her best to give you the best service. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Edwin. Any questions from the audience? All right, thank you very much again, Edwin. And we will be moving forward to Tanya Ogwell from the Trade and Economic Mission to Kenya, unless of course, Amnon, you want to say something before. Right.
Hi guys, you can hear me?
Yes, just please put your presentation in presentation mode and you can begin.
Okay, so you can see it?
Yes.
Good. So my name is Tanya Ogwell, a trade officer with the Embassy of Israel, Nairobi, Kenya. My sectors are cybersecurity, fintech, and innovation. And today I'm going to give you a slight brief on a high level about the cybersecurity sector in Kenya. So to begin with, Kenya is actually known as the Silicon Savannah in Africa. It's a leading ICT hub, and it has, over the years, it has grown more interest with different investors pushing the innovation ecosystem in Kenya. And this is due to the high penetration of the internet, considering that the community is 88% served with mobile phones. That means that they have more mobile connectivity as they do go around their business. Subsequently, this one actually now makes the country more financially included, in that now the financial inclusivity rate right now in the country stands at 83%. That means at least most people have access to fintech technology. And being the plus side of actually now having such technology with us, now we have opened a gateway to risks for the local entrepreneurs and the users who use such digital platforms. Some of the challenges that our sector actually, our Kenyan cybersecurity sector experience is more like cyber awareness in the financial and the non-financial companies. And also we have a limited skill set in the industry. However, most academicians and research institutes are trying to expand their wings in actually training more generations into being tech savvy and also cybersecurity aware. And then also we have a lack of legislative instruments in the process. Like right now, cybersecurity has become a core factor in the country, in that now we can even have cybersecurity acts that are yet to be fully implemented. And also amongst the last challenges that is being experienced in Kenya is the increased number of cyber crimes, from malware attacks to web app attacks to DDoS attacks. So we can actually agree that in Kenya also with the pandemic, moving on the digital platform, most companies are facing this challenge of how can they secure the online resources. From that overview and the challenges bit, I'd actually like to emphasize on a few bit of the business culture in Kenya. Number one, the official language is Swahili and English. However, for business, most businesses operate using English. And I'd say for you to approach a Kenyan a local entrepreneur or just partner with a business, expect to be challenged in terms of negotiating on different terms and terms of operation, in terms of money and all. And also, apart from the other business culture points I've noted here. I'd say I'd really request you to avoid money tokens. It's not a good practice because for someone to be trustworthy, they should not actually equate their services or their partnership to money tokens. And lastly, just be patient as you negotiate your business partnerships. The embassy is actually participating in different events in the year. We have various cybersecurity events and also fintech activities, which I've listed here. And yeah, feel free to approach us in case you need to connect with any Kenyan company after such events, or just feel free to contact me at any time. And lastly, I'll actually finish it with some do's and don'ts for the business culture in Kenya. So we always recommend that you always contact the embassy once you spot an opportunity in Kenya. Also conduct your own due diligence as the same as we will conduct our own due diligence on the local company. We'll always ensure that your customer is fit for the market in Kenya, and also consider offering samples in that you can pilot a small section of your product with the Kenyan industry, and also participate in local exhibitions, local activities at hackathons, anything that is being held locally. You can contact us in case you spot an event. And also the last one I'll emphasize on is just be patient when you are doing business negotiations with the Kenyan counterparts. As for the don'ts, I will emphasize more on listening more to your local partners and target audience. Make sure you come to a better consensus before landing any business deal. And yeah, it will be a really good approach to doing business in Kenya. Yes, I think I'll keep it really short, but open to questions, and see my contact details on the screen.
Great. Thank you, Tanya. So we'll start with one question we have for Kenya, and then we'll open it for Q&A, of course, to all three trade economic missions. As for Kenya, how dominant is the USSD still in Kenya?
USSD is a service that is widely embraced in the local fraternity. Reason as to why I can say this is, however, even if we've made a lot of strides in actually digitizing most platforms and actually adopting digital technologies, I can say some parts of Kenya still falls behind when it comes to network coverage and internet connectivity. So you find most of the users still have the old style types of mobile phones. So for USSD, I'll say it's a safe option for Kenyans when it comes to less internet connectivity, and it's always a fallback plan for fintech technologies in Kenya. That's another advice.
Okay, great. And as for a general question we have is what is the best, for all three of you, of course, what is the best way to connect to resellers, brokers, and dealers in Africa? Each one from, of course, is on a respective country or region.
Karishma, Edwin, okay, I can continue. Okay, so first thing is, I'd say you do your research, and once you realize the target base, you can actually approach the local embassy or the Israeli trade mission that is representative in that country. Let's say, in Kenya, contact us. From there, we can actually find within our local database if you can be able to reach the desired clients, or if you have contacts, we can help you actually form a good foundation for the contacts. So I'd say there's no specific way, but I know business goes either way. You can find the client before we direct you to them. So I'd say once you spot anyone, or if you have any specific field, feel free to approach the embassy and you'll be assisted.
Thank you. And last questions for today, at least for now. Since during the COVID era, there is no chance of flying between countries, are customers still able to purchase the solutions according to remote demos only, or you still have to have a boots on the ground? Is the remote demo enough?
So I think because now because of COVID and stuff, and things are hectic with the meeting the company face to face and doing the demo, I think they are open for demo presentations virtually. They are open, and obviously if they're really interested in the solution and they want to really, they will just have to wait when the COVID is over and to meet.
Yes, if I may, I would also add that exactly what Karishma said. I mean, demos and initial meetings are done virtually, and we do it all the time. But
Yes.
for more sophisticated systems and solutions, I mean, there is no way we can avoid, physical meetings. People needs to come and implement the system, maybe do some training for the local staff. I mean, at the end of the day, physical meeting or physical activities will be needed, but all the initial steps, all the introductory and all the discussions can be done virtually, and we do it a lot.
Yeah.
All right, that settles our webinar here. So again, I would like to say thank you to all the trade and economic missions, both South Africa, Kenya, and Ghana, to Tanya, Edwin, and Karishma, Anon, and Amit, and of course to Tony, who already left. And again, thank you for all of you for being here. If you need any further assistance, feel free to reach out either to the Export Institute or to each one of the trade and economic missions, and we will be more than happy to assist. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alon. Have a good day.
Thanks. Okay, bye.
Thank you.